Hi everybody, welcome back to the Renaissance Woodworker. Welcome back into my shop. So a few weeks ago, I threw down the gauntlet and I did an out-of-the-box test of my new WoodRiver No. 3 plane. And you remember I took about 10 minutes, maybe a little bit more, just to remove all the packing grease and things like that off of it, and tried to give it a trial run without touching the blade. And again, I said this several times, this is probably not what you should do. You should probably end up doing some honing, but we've all done it. And I wanted to see how it performed. Well, I had a few issues here and there. I was getting a nice thicker shaving, but considering the No. 3 is really more of a smoothing plane, I wanted to make sure that I could get really gossamer thin shavings. Ended up being not quite as I wanted it to go, but still a workable plane for a deeper cut. Well, what I did is pull the blade out. I went over to my stones. I did just a quick flattening. I use a diamond stone. What is it? A medium DMT diamond stone, and did a couple of quick passes with it. Realized that I've got a pretty flat back, so I worked it until I got a consistent scratch pattern. I worked it up to 1,000 grit stone and then up to an 8,000 grit water stone till I got a nice polished surface on the back. Then I went over to my 1,000 grit Sharpening stone, established a micro bevel. The blade is, the geometry is 25 degrees, so I just put a micro bevel somewhere around the maybe 29, 28 degree mark. I did it freehand, so I can't really tell you. It was a little higher. And then I went over to my 8,000 grit stone, upped the bevel just a little bit more, and added kind of a tertiary bevel just a little bit steeper than that. This is a technique that Rob Cosman actually espouses. And I felt at that point that the blade was ready to go. All told, maybe about 5 minutes, of which maybe 4 of that was actually spent lapping the back of the blade. What I have left is what's in my hand at this point. Got a piece of walnut here that is relatively flat. This was flattened on a power joiner and run through, I'm sorry, it wasn't even flattened on a joiner. It was run through a powered planer. And it's actually been sitting for a little while, so I probably have just a little bit of a cup here with just shifting humidity in my shop, but it's relatively flat. So we're going to come back and try this blade out again, and basically I want to continually advance the blade until I start to get a shaving like I just did. And now I'm getting really nice thin shavings. I can see that the board is not perfectly flat, but what I'm doing is removing those mill marks, and it's evening out the board and getting it flatter. All right. Pretty consistent across the board here, but what I'm seeing now is I'm not taking a shaving all the way across the length of the blade. So I need to use my lateral adjustment lever back here to even out the cut. I'm a little too heavy on the left-hand side of the plane. So what you do is you push your lever, as you're holding it upside down, you push your lever towards the direction where the blade is high. There we go. Getting a shaving off of both corners of the blade, or both sides of the blade, and getting more of a full width. Now I'm getting gossamer thin shavings that are actually so thin that static electricity is causing them to stick to my fingers. More importantly, I have a beautiful polished walnut surface. On this side of the board you can see what the board looks like coming out of a powered planer. This side you can see, oh my goodness, and feel the polished surface of walnut. So that's what happens after you have polished the blade. Really well performing plane that you can be extraordinarily proud of the finish that you get off of it. So I got a lot of responses to that blog post. Many people who were excited to hear it, some people who were concerned that it was still a plane that was not made in the USA and made over in China. Yeah, there's no question. I mean, that's one of the reasons this plane is going to be cheaper. Some of the materials may not be as robust, and frankly, the labor that made it might not have cost as much. All those responses, and many of you actually went out and picked up a plane or two yourself. And I want to say thank you, because many of you actually used that affiliate link that I put into the website. In fact, a heck of a lot more of you used that affiliate link than I ever thought would. So as a way to give back, the money that I frankly made in commissions at Woodcraft on affiliate was put towards another toy to complete this experiment. What I have here is a Lee Nielsen number 4 bronze smoother. So again, thank you all very much for using that affiliate link. Being as selfless as I am, I reinvested those funds back into the show and purchased a Lee Nielsen smoother. Now, this plane was, got it on sale for I think $119. This plane was $350. So sizable difference, more than twice the difference. This just came in the mail today. I pulled it out of the box and I've done absolutely nothing to it. Now, there is a note in the box when you get it from Lee Nielsen saying that the cap screw has been tightened down during shipment so nothing shifts. So you do have to come back and loosen that up a turn or maybe a half a turn. So that's what I'll do first. I'll come back about a quarter of a turn. By the way, if you guys have never heard of Elkhead tools, this is an Elkhead tool screwdriver. This is a flat-bladed screwdriver. I'll be talking more about these in the blog in the future, but the guys at Elkhead Tools actually sent me a set of a Phillips head and a flat blade screwdriver to try out, and of course to promote on the blog. So I've had it now for a little less than a week. Anytime I reach for a Phillips head or a flathead, I'm grabbing this. The Kokobelow handle is beautiful, fits perfectly in my hand. The machining on the brass ferrule, everything is just perfect. It's the most beautiful set of screwdrivers you'll ever see. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about. That'll be later on. But thanks, guys, over at Elkhead. I appreciate you guys sending those over. So now, I backed off the cap screw here just a little bit, and what that does is release some of the tension, so now you can move the adjustment wheel a little bit more. And what I want to do is advance the plane, or excuse me, the blade, okay, till I get close, till I get some blade projecting. Because what I want to do is go ahead and do the lateral adjustment and make sure the blade is straight in here. And I can see a little bit more is protruding on this side, so I'll move the adjustment lever over and just kind of even it out by eye. Now, right off the bat, the first thing I'll say is this plane is definitely more massive. Now, certainly this is a number 4, this is a number 3. They are going to be decidedly smaller, but what I notice is the length is about the same. Obviously, the number 4 is wider. It's a beefier plane. Plus, this is made out of bronze, so it is going to be heavier. So there is definitely a difference. This is probably half again as heavier than the WoodRiver plane. But more importantly, I notice in the adjustment wheel has absolutely no, well, very little play from advancing and retracting the blade. And basically what I mean is as you advance the blade, it catches the toggle, the Y toggle here, and it moves the blade out. As you back it out, there is a little bit of free rotation till the knurled nut can catch the other side of the toggle and start pulling it out. But it's completely smooth, no slop whatsoever. This plane is very, very smooth, but there is a lot more, well, not a lot, but maybe another extra swipe to pull up that slack. The lateral adjuster, while they look very much the same, the positive feedback I feel from the Lee Nielsen is much higher. I can definitely feel like I've got more control over it. The lateral adjuster on the WoodRiver does feel just a little bit jumpy. I had to I went too far at first, and then I had to back up and readjust. the lateral adjuster on the Lee Nielsen is smooth all the way through, and I was able to just sneak right up and get it perfectly aligned. Now I'm going to back the blade off again. And we'll work the other side of the board here that hasn't been planed yet. I'll advance the blade until I get a shaving. Now remember, I have not touched this blade. What you just saw from the WoodRiver again was a sharpened blade. Okay, I really backed the iron out. Okay, a little bit of shaving there. Getting a whisper-thin shaving out of this, but obviously I'm not perfectly aligned yet. Yeah, a little too proud on one side. Just a little bit of an adjustment. There we go. Now I need to flatten out this side of the board a little bit more, which I probably shouldn't be trying to do with a plane that's taking like 1/1000th of an inch shaving. Here we go. I just pushed the blade or the adjustment lever forward maybe 1/4 of a turn just to take a little bit more bite off so I can flatten this board out faster. I'm getting full width shavings though that are still, maybe I'm taking 1/1000 thickness shaving here. Okay, that whole board's pretty flat, so I'm going to back the blade out again and sneak back into the cut. There we go. I feel like I have just a little bit more control over the adjustment about how far I advance the blade with this plane. Kind of the same thing I was talking about with the lateral adjustment. But the key is I have not touched this plane. In fact, there was no grease to remove. Now, Lee Nielsen will apply, I believe it's just a lacquer finish on here, just for rust prevention. You should go ahead and remove that, grab some mineral spirits or lacquer thinner and pull that off, and then oil the plane or wax the plane just like you normally should. But there are no adverse marks on this board. I've done nothing. What I have done, you've seen here. So technically, what are you getting for that $150 extra? There's no question when I compare these side by side, this feels better built. Now that's hard to say because the weight difference, this just feels more massive. I personally do like the feeling of the handle quite a bit more. This front knob is a little bit bigger. Fits my hand. Now I have pretty big hands. Fits my hand better. The tote has a cleaner feel to it, and the back curves back and kind of hugs my hand a little bit more. Now obviously, just looking at these, you can see the designs of the moving parts, the frogs and such, are really based off, well, this one came after, so we'll say this is based off, or actually they're both based off the Stanley Bedrock series. However, the machining, the tolerances on the Lee Nielsen, the quality of the hardware, it's really what makes up for that price difference. The results speak for themselves. This is the side that was planed by the Lee Nielsen with nothing done to it. This is the side that was planed by the WoodRiver after a honed and sharpened iron. I can't tell the difference. Can you guys? I see no difference whatsoever. Well, okay. I've got a few more plane tracks on the Lee Nielsen side. That's just because I haven't done anything to the blade. I put really round off the corners, the most minute of camber on this blade. That's something that could be done on the Lee Nielsen with maybe 15 seconds of honing, part of just my normal honing process anyway. But I can definitely feel no difference from one side of the board to the other. And they say that the human finger can tell a thousandth of an inch difference, and I don't feel anything. So results speak for themselves, which means we're kind of in a dead heat here, except for the fact that this took 30 seconds to get that. This took about 15 minutes of cleaning, reassembling, and then another maybe 5 minutes of sharpening to get there. So 20 minutes, $150 some cheaper. No time, $150 more expensive. You know, when you look at it that way, the WoodRiver seems like a pretty good deal. However, I do think that with the tolerances of the Lee Nielsen plane, the better, as I feel, the better adjustability, the more control over the adjustability. In practice, you know, we're just dealing with this simple little board here, very straight grain, no real issues. In practice, with real-world boards, with switching grain, figure, things like that, I think the more massive nature of this plane, the easier ability, the more fine-tuned adjustability of it will produce better results in the long run. Also in the long run, I think this plane is just going to be more durable and last a heck of a lot longer. And it looks really, really cool. So, you know, we're talking a very, very close difference. There's no question this is a better made plane. It's going to last longer. But I'll leave it up to you guys. Is it worth $150 more than the WoodRiver? Personally, in my opinion, I think it's worth every penny. You get to support a local business, a North American business. You get a plane that my grandkids will be getting just as much enjoyment out of, and hopefully their grandkids will get just as much enjoyment out of. Once I get this honed and sharpened, I think that we're going to even get an even higher level than what we're getting with the WoodRiver. If they're at a dead heat right now and this one's been sharpened and this one hasn't, what's this going to perform like once it's been sharpened? And I can tell you with my Lee Nielsen jack plane that I have, when that's sharpened and honed and kept very, very sharp, that performs like a dream. I think the difference we may run into is even the resistance that I have to take to push the board across or push the plane across will be even less. So again, I think it's extraordinarily exciting that WoodRiver is producing planes of this quality. It's a great option for people on a tighter budget. Frankly, I would not have spent, I'll be perfectly honest, I wouldn't have spent the $350 on this smoothing plane because I have a really nice Veritas bevel up smoothing plane. I have a beautiful vintage coffin wooden smoothing plane that I absolutely love. I have a number 3 WoodRiver smoothing plane. I've got enough smoothing planes that I probably wouldn't have spent it on that. However, now that I have this in my hands, it's a expense that I would probably consider again. Now I say that because this was basically funded by affiliate commissions thanks to you, the listeners. So again, I know I've said it several times already, thank you for that. That's really what I plan to do as you know, affiliate commissions and things like that come in. I have a full-time job. That pays the bills and the mortgage. And the proceeds from the hand tool school help me to make my way in this world, if you will. Anything extra, whether it's sponsorships from tool manufacturers, AdSense revenue, any of that stuff is really being reinvested into the show, into things like a new camera. The tripod that's sitting on is brand new. And I'd like to reinvest in tools so I can show you guys, here's really what the difference is about. So kind of getting off topic there, but the Lee Nielsen head-to-head with the WoodRiver, really very, very close. I'm going to sharpen this thing up and you'll see it in use in future episodes. I think the Lee Nielsen will lengthen the gap a little bit once it's been perfectly honed.